tuning in to Elm CIty BRASS,
Yes.
the New Haven chapter
Absolutely.
of the National African American Gun Owners Association, NAGA for short, but don't get it twisted.
Absolutely. And we're here with the president or the e-board of the chapter, and we're just going to have some great conversation today just about who we are as a chapter and what we're trying to do and what we're looking to do, especially as it pertains to African American people holding rifles or holding guns or owning guns the legal way. So we're going to have a basic conversation to my left and my right. To my left is Andre, owner of Bullseye LLC, and to my right is Brother Josue owner of SMS
Firearms Training, LLC.
Nice. So we want to kind of get into why and what we're doing and how we got to this point and what we thought of when we came together to start this club. So I'm going to start off with Andre. What sparked you to want to have a gun club here in New Haven?
So my whole big thing behind wanting to start a gun club in New Haven was the idea that there's a lot of misconception and a lack of education with regards to firearms in the black community. Being one of 3 or 4 black FFLs in the state of Connecticut, I just felt that there wasn't enough representation of black and brown people in the firearms industry. So I had to find people who I felt understood my message, the goal, and that had the work ethic to have the vision come to reality. And so I got on the phone with my best friend, brother, for what is it, like 25, 30 years now?
It's been too long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe, who's the owner of SMS, who's also alumni. We all went to Southern Connecticut State University. I knew Joe briefly through like going to parties that they would run back in college. And then
I did not go to parties. Just throwing that out there. I stayed in my room and did my work.
And graduated.
Okay, same difference. Same difference. There's always an excuse back in college. You can justify it, just like, oh, that was then. But someone that's really talented behind the firearms with both performance skills and education.
Nice.
And so what other better person to kind of be a 3-headed beast to get this organization, this gun group off the ground, up and around running.
Right. And Joe?
I think for me, it was very simple. There's a lot of gun clubs across the state of Connecticut and across the nation. But when we look at New Haven as a whole, there's not really much. And when you look at the mindset in our communities, a lot of times it's always perceived that the bad guy's the only person that should have a gun. And absolutely. I kind of want to change that stigma. Like, that firearm is nothing more than a tool that you could use to defend yourself. Great tool for self-defense, and then even more fun if you're going out there and using it correctly and going to the range, trying to be proficient with those skills. So for me, it's all about trying to get a group of people to come together and just go out there and practice, go out there and have fun, go out there and build those skills. And
right.
Doing it in an environment where you're able to do it safely, build that confidence and competence that you need in order to handle a firearm safely.
No, for sure. And I think I'm sitting between you guys talking about this conversation. The people say, well, you got 2 talented people behind the gun, and then there's you, Rick. What is the point? Why are you here? And I think it started out with a conversation. I know Andre, and actually both of you have been trying to get me to own guns for a long time, and it wasn't until the pandemic hit for me that I started to feel like, okay, maybe it's time for me to shift my thought and thinking to being able to say, okay, now it's time for me to buy a firearm. And I think while I was purchasing my first handgun, I started to realize, and while I was in the store, there was no one that looked like me. And if you know me personally, black people achievement and black and brown people achievement has always been at the forefront of my brain as it pertains to everything, excellence and everything that we do. It's just more so like, why aren't we in the spaces? We should be in these spaces. And how do we gain access to these spaces? So, Andre kind of been to the point where he's constantly saying, yo, you need to go get a gun. Stop acting like that. You start acting funny. Woo. And I was just like, I don't need a gun, man. We fight where we from. And that's kind of how I always approached the situation. But realistically, it really had nothing about it. So when the pandemic came, I was in Bass Pro Shops, and I was like one of maybe 150 people in the store, and I was one of the only black faces that I saw purchasing a firearm during that time. And it just kind of didn't sit well with me. And one of my main ideas when I was talking to them, or when they talked to me about the club, was just like, hey, we need to be able to kind of educate more people about guns, gun safety, and why they should have it, if no other reason than everybody else got it, right? You can have your own other reason as long as you're educated on the topic and why you're doing it or whatever the case may be. But for me, it's just like, if they have it, why don't I? Right, and that's where I started with my gun journey, and just with the gun journey, how did you guys get into wanting to be familiar with firearms? What drew you to firearms and say, hey, I want to train people how to shoot. I want to handle these guns at all, because there's a stigma growing up being black and brown. Is just like, oh, one thing we know how to do, we know about guns. So what is it that made you want to go the legitimate route? And I'm gonna keep that off for Joe.
So I think the story in terms of why I started training and why I started carrying are two different, right? When I made the decision to start carrying, I turned 21. I realized I was able to do it, so I went full throttle.
Nice.
Went through the course, shooting qual, purchased my first gun after doing a little bit of research, and been carrying ever since then, right? And I was always, literally, and you could attest to this, probably one of the only ones in our social circle that carried on a regular basis. And when it came to my family, literally the only one that carried on a regular basis. But what made me wanted to start teaching is because, one, I built my proficiency as it pertains to firearms, and realized that I'm a relatively good shooter. You're always a student of the game, but I'm a relatively good shooter. And I realized that there were a ton of other instructors out there, and no knock to any instructors, but there were a ton of other instructors out
sucked.
there that not even terrible at shooting, because you could be a terrible shot but a great teacher,
yeah, of course,
and great at
absolutely.
understanding and being able to relate a concept.
But I'm Mike Jordan out this.
But I felt like a lot of people were in it for a money grab,
Right.
And it shouldn't be the case. Like,
Correct,
you
right.
should be in it to really drive home how important it is to be able to have these freedoms. You
Right.
get what I'm saying?
To
How
educate.
important it is,
Right.
if you're going to choose to carry, to do it in a safe manner, so you're not creating a hazard for yourself or your loved ones, right?
Correct.
So the reason why I started teaching is because I noticed that within that space, when we're talking about instructors by itself, there were a lot of hack jobs and fly-by-night instructors.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Especially during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the decision to want to start teaching. Did my research and hit the ground running.
Nice.
And just trying to build SMS to what it is today, and try to take it, one step further every year.
Awesome. I kind of know your story, but go ahead and tell it yourself.
So it's crazy because Rick was one of the first people that knew that I had a firearm, and he was like, I don't know how clean we gonna keep it, and who's ever gonna edit it. So bleep this out so that my business don't take a hit for this. But he's like, nigga, you crazy. So, but to give you more story in my background, I started playing with the guns at like 7th, 8th grade. Whether you want to deem it legal or illegal, but the person who showed me had access to illegal firearms,
Right.
and just happened to have a wealth of knowledge, and started showing me how to take them apart and things like that. And at 16, I was given my first chance to shoot a firearm at the Bridgeport shooting range, when it was nothing against Bridgeport shooting range, but it fell from grace at times. And
shooting shots.
No, I'm known for shooting shots, but no hit, no direct hit. It's just that it's not as popular as it once was.
Bridgeport, we still love you.
Yeah, we definitely still love you, and want you to send more of your students this way.
Nice.
But it was always a passion of mine. So any student of mine who've taken my course know this story. My favorite movie as a child was Bad Boys, the first one, and that
Maglar.
Maglar.
that 4-barrel COP cop gun that the bad dude Russian whatever he is pulls out at the end. I was like, I'm gonna own that gun one day. Didn't realize that gun would cost me a lot of money, but as time went on, I would keep training. And Rick and I was co-captains in football, and I blew both my knees out. So the next best athletic thing that I cared about and being able to compete was firearms. And I would go to the range with friends, co-workers, family, and I would just turn it into a competition sports where I've gotten a lot of free food, money, and shooting time off of winning.
Right.
And then what I've noticed was I was helping people go through the process of getting their pistol permit and not being compensated for it. So I'll do everything. I help them with the application, write letters of recommendation, show them how to go through the fingerprint process and everything. And then I'm like, but you got to take your course to whoever, whether it was Bridgeport at the time or another guy that was doing it. And I'm like, I'm giving money away, and I'm literally teaching the course. So I became certified. And then once I became certified, that's where I created and gave the birth to Bullseye. And Bullseye is birthed from my background in education and my passion of firearms.
Nice.
Shouts out to Bullseye.
Yeah, shout out to Bullseye LLC. So a lot of people kind of see my Instagram a lot, and they see that I share both of your content. So like every time there's something that has to do with guns, I always send people to the both of you. And I think if we had a group of people or a population of people that we're looking for from a subset, for me, it's always African American women. I believe that's the main subset that we should be targeting for membership, because we want to make sure that they are arming themselves, because they are the ones who are the fastest growing entrepreneurs. And for people who are, for lack of better words, criminals, they're the ones that always are being targeted, right? And we have that male privilege of being able to, like, I know where not to walk to, because I'm still 5'10", 5'11", 200 plus pounds. People are going to make a business decision when they're trying to do something terrible to me, when they see these women who are more of a smaller stature, they, from a coward standpoint, they was just like, okay, this is an easier target. So I always feel like it's important for us to make sure that we're educating Black and brown women at best, to say, okay, listen, this is what you need to do. This is how you go about it. This is how you need to protect yourself, especially during a pandemic. It kind of woke me up. It's just like, okay, there was this big grocery scare, right? And everyone was trying to find out, like, where am I going to get this food? People were going into a frenzy. All these, regular things were going away. Toilet tissue, paper towel, and the idea of, like, hey, I just went grocery shopping. Things got terrible. How am I going to protect what's in my house? And with what? My looks? You know what I mean? And it's just that idea of just as we grow, and there's more women in the world than men, especially Black and brown people that are free. And it's just like, okay, what do we do? How do we get this information out to them? So that's what kind of drew me to that. And I just want to kind of hear you guys' thoughts on that as well. So go ahead.
It's funny you say that, because it's just like, I don't know if you're aware, but Black women specifically are the fastest growing population in recent history as it pertains to, like, gun ownership. So they're already taking the steps to get the education and arm themselves and be able to protect themselves. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So being able to take that to the next level is great,
Right.
And to piggyback off of what Joe was just saying, I was actually going to make the same statistical remark that you made with regards that Black women are the fastest growing gun owners. And this is a FBI statistic, so you can look it up if you want. But not only Black women, just Black and brown people in general are expressing the interest in becoming legal firearm owners. There's a assumption that Black people have access to illegal guns, and believe it or not, there's more law-abiding African American and other ethnicities that have legal and want to do things the legal way. And what this gun club, one of its goals are going to be to have more Black, brown, men and women, the accessibility to free training or discounted training that
More importantly, the knowledge, right?
the knowledge, like training. And when I say training, I'm not meaning the sense of having to squeeze the trigger and having range time, but it's even just the conversation. Like when I teach my class, there's certain terminologies, and I don't really get too anal about it. Some people call a magazine a clip. If you call it a clip, then it's a clip. If you call your car a whip and it's a whip, and I know it's a whip, then it's a whip. Same with sneakers.
So just that a cultural competency of just understanding what it goes with it.
And
right.
that was one of the reasons I wanted to become an FFL. It's not to become rich because it's not a lot of money or profit in it, but it's when people that look like me, and I can speak from my own experience as well, like you were saying, Rick, it was unsettling and it was uneasy to go into a gun store and ask these questions and be disregarded when you're not using the right verbiage.
Right.
If I'm like, oh, do you have a clip for a 9mm? And they're like, a clip? What's a clip? And what's a 9? Like, a lot of people, even my students or customers or people that come up to me, they're like, I need a clip for a 9mm. They don't realize that
that's not the proper terminology.
Exactly, but each gun, like a magazine for a Glock 19 is not this gun compatible with a magazine from a Smith & Wesson. And so there's that misconception. They think that just because it carries the same bullet that there's a
universal thing for everything.
A universal magazine.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. And so definitely the educational piece, and oftentimes I am the firm one to tell you how ignorant I am as it becomes to guns. I just like the stuff that I look on TV. You know what I mean? And then one of the main reasons why I wanted to get a Desert Eagle is because Tony Yeo said I got a long Desert Eagle like Eurocop that hit for 400 yards to make a hippo drop, and it's just like, yeah, I want a Desert Eagle, right? And
break your wrist.
Yeah. So and that's one of the things that draws us in. But these are also these cultural references that we gotta be very much so present for to understand and relate to the populations that we're getting. So there's oftentimes that I come to Snook and I say, listen, and I think I said it to Joe as well. I was just like, okay, they have like the Harry Potter approach to guns, and where I have a Walmart.
What does that even mean?
Hold on, let me break it down.
Yeah, okay.
And I have like the Walmart approach to guns as it is. So the when I tell them like you need to put a package together for people and sell this as this gun, they're like, no. People need to have the right fit and the right gun for them as it pertains when they're shooting that they're comfortable with, and then they'll be able to say this. And I'm just like, no, put a 38 special together or put a regular 9 that most people have together and sell that to them and let them be able to kind of adjust on where they are. And I always get pushed back from them. They're like, no, Rick, that's not how you do it. They're always like the Harry Potter wand piece is just like, no, you need the one with the dragon flare and this, that, and then the wand will choose you and then you're comfortable with it as that. And I always kind of fight with them. It's just like, no, that's not it. But that's my capitalistic mindset. And they're more so like, no, we're not going to do that. So I want y'all to kind of speak a little bit to that as it pertains to the specifications or the idea of how customizable and how it needs to fit that person when it's coming to purchasing a gun. Because I literally went into the store, was like, oh, got a 40? Give me that 40. and I went from there.
40 is a sucky round, though, by the way. But I digress. Joe, you want to hit it first? Because
So,
I know I'm
again,
long...
like we said, in terms of creating a package, it's all things that sound good in theory, right? But
right.
it's not a money grab.
Right.
When it comes down to it, you're selling an experience. You're giving the person the knowledge, right? Having them walk away, knowing that they are leaving with more than they came in. But when it comes to picking a firearm for you and your person, you gotta know that it's a right fit for you. So I hate when someone will say that they're trying to be, other instructors or dealers are encouraging them to buy X, Y, Z. All right, but is that going to work well for you? Have you tried out a multitude of things before you come to the conclusion that you're going to purchase this because someone suggested that this would be best for you? Like it's not a one-size-fits-all type situation. You really have to try to find and do some research, do some legwork, find that right firearm for you.
Right.
So that's all it is for me. That's why I try to stay away from
putting packages together.
a firearm on one particular person?
As a firearm instructor in FFL, where I deal with finding the right gun for the right person, and I tend to use analogies. A car is equivalent. I mean, a gun is equivalent to a car, right? It suits a job. It's for a purpose. The most important question, by all means, is what's your intended purpose for this firearm? If you say it's for self-protection in the streets, when I leave my home, I can't recommend you a shotgun.
Or
Right?
Desert Eagle?
Or Desert Eagle, right?
Like RoboCop.
If you say I'm really into turkey hunting, or I'm really into deer hunting, that's what I want a gun for. I can't be like, yo, come check out this Glock 19. It makes no sense at all from a applicable practical standpoint. And the same with, Rick, you a contractor, right?
Right.
So you have your company, you contract. Do you fit the part if you come to someone's house in a C-Class Mercedes, or does the Silverado is a more fit for a contractor? And that's where we look at it, where it's like the gun has to fit the role and it has to be applied. My gun that I use and carry every day is the SIG 365 XL. The reason I carry that is because I have medium-sized hands. I can't even comfortably hold a Desert Eagle because my short fingers don't reach the trigger well. And then I have poor fundamentals, and I can't perform as well as I can because the grip is too big. Just like what Jay-Z said, picture me, I got the new Bugatti or whatever he says, hot, you got me?
Yeah.
Like, a 6 foot dude is not comfortably, or Shaq is not.
He fit in the new Bugatti.
You got me.
He's talking about being a Mason though. But go.
Relax.
You know what I mean? But in the same breath, I think, and for me, it's just like that's what it started with, right? It started with rap. Like, I'm a Mobb Deep fan, so it's just like between Mobb Deep, Jadakiss, DMX, Hove. You know what I mean? 4 longs, 38 longs inside my mom's Buick, right? And it's just these are these references that I'm constantly like. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So these are the references that I'm constantly, referring back to saying, okay, these are the guns that I want because this is kind of what I've known about, and it's just like, and I think we hear a lot of our gun education are coming from these cultural references versus coming from the people who know the law. So it's best for me that I have two best friends that are like into this stuff that I could easily call and just say, okay, what do you think about this? But not everyone has that, ability or that privilege. So this is what we want the club to be. So if you had a way to pitch like a 30-second to tell people like, come join Brass Reeves, what are you telling them? What is the way? How are you getting the regular person to come join our chapter?
If you're interested in firearms and you want to have fun doing cool stuff that you see us doing on videos,
and you don't want producers jumping on you, go ahead.
And you want to do it with people that look like you, that shares the same cultural values as you, this is the place to be. Because not only are we humble, down to earth, normal people, as you can see, Rick is definitely humanizing all of us and giving cultural references. And when we talk, a lot of our conversations are quotes from Nas, Biggie, Jay-Z. And it's a lie because money and blood can mix.
Like two dicks and no bitch.
It can mix. It just
I don't know any Elton John songs, so I don't know where Elton John came from. But my goodness, but yeah. So and what is your pitch? How are you telling people to join? These the New Haven Gun Club. What is your pitch to people?
So for me, it's not necessarily a pitch, right?
Okay.
If you're interested in learning more about firearms, right? You're interested in getting into the art of shooting, and you want to be around like-minded individuals, people that look like you. Give it a shot,
Right.
But for
no
me,
pun intended.
I just no pun intended or pun intended, right?
Pun intended.
But for me, I just want to make sure that we're able to create an environment where people are able to do so safely, right? Be able to do so comfortably. I just want you to have fun with it, Take it serious, but also have fun and be able to learn something from it. And hopefully you could get into the two-way space, the two-way movement, and help us continue to push this movement a little bit further. You know.
Awesome.
What's also dope about us is that we don't share the same views, right? A lot of times people try to clump us because we all look alike into one, where me and Rick's political, social views are completely like polar opposite.
Contrasting,
But
yeah.
I know if it comes down and my back's against the wall, I make that phone call, he's showing up. And that's what
He's showing up late, but
But
he's showing up.
that's the kind of unification that we need,
man.
right? It's the unity amongst people that look like you that you can call. We can have a conversation about. I was just having a conversation with my cousin about guns, and she doesn't feel as if the AR-15 is necessary. And Joe and I completely disagree. But at the end of the day, when I leave here, she's still my cousin.
Right.
I might disown her after that.
You might have to disown her. Right?
No, but I think it's important to make sure that we have that conversation with people as well, right? It's just like, if you believe in carrying guns and you don't believe in carrying guns, that doesn't mean that you can't join the club as well. Mm-hmm. So I think another piece of the club that I think my part is just more so making it educational, right? It's more educational than anything else, right? And I think at times it's just like, if there was an emergency right now, where would you go to? Where would you get your information from? Who would you contact it? And I think when it's doomsday planning, as we like to say, what's the doomsday plan intact? Most families don't have it, especially us. We don't have it, right? And I think the idea of being able to kind of use a club as a way to doomsday prepare, or even to the idea of just like, how do I turn this from not being a reaction to being preparation. And I think that is important. All right. Now, having water.
Don't start sounding like a militia, bro.
No. Absolutely. No. And I think that's the part too, because it's just like, I don't want to be to the point, but if I need to have water, what if something goes wrong? What do we do? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the ideas of learning those basic skills of survival is what we need to have. And we're better to do it than amongst people who are at your skill level, for one, and two, have the same amount of questions, right? There's a affinity in having kinship, right, with people who are looking like you and of like minds and want to be able to say, all right, I want to ask a question, but I don't want to sound dumb. And I think a lot of times we have people who are struggling with those notions and don't want to join things. And we want brass, especially my part of being, a part of brass, is just making sure that we're able to have those conversations and facilitate that for people. Like, hey, what do you need? What do you want us to do? And what do you want that to look like? Right. So even though they are training for people in the classroom to get the guns and fill out the paperwork and things and such, another thing that we're doing is like, hey, let's all just go meet up at the range. Mm-hmm. We're going to meet up at the range and we're going to shoot for X amount of times, because everything is, muscle twitch, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how you tell me. They tell me I'm a terrible shot because I'm always, super tense and I don't breathe and I'm not doing these things and these
the hell out of your shot.
And anticipating my shot and all these different things that are going on that now, before I couldn't hit the thing at all. Now I'm at least making the paper. So now and I'm starting to see that progress for myself, and it gets me excited from anything like you're doing, even if it's working out and it's just like, oh, I lost 5 pounds. Now all of a sudden it's like, it makes me want to go more. So these are the things that I want to make sure that we're kind of selling it off there to other people to join the club and make that a thing. So I know we have Bullseye and we have SMS and we have your IGs and making sure that we do, but what are some of the other things that you guys offer that's besides just taking the classes?
So for Bullseye, if you don't know already, I'm a Type 07 gun manufacturer, SOT. So I sell suppressors, and yes, in the state of Connecticut, suppressors, aka silencers, are legal. They're perfectly fine to own. I sell them, customize them. I build guns, customize them, outside of just teaching. In the process, and I'll say it now because I'm gonna speak it into existence, I'm in the process of of obtaining a space that can also be used as our clubhouse.
Oh,
so Bass Reeves will have a clubhouse in Durham, Connecticut.
Nice.
Where we can meet quarterly, we monthly, however we decide that's gonna be at the time, and like-minded people coming together. When I say like-minded people, I mean people that is just into guns, because people think that because I have I won't say the exact number, but know that
Please
I have plenty of guns, and it's not for doomsday. They're not for a civil unrest or anything like that. I literally just like them. I sold a dozen of them last year because I stopped shooting them, and I stopped shooting them because I bought new ones that were more fascinated. And I have no desire to hurt anyone
Right.
at all. Like, another thing is, like, although I carry a gun pretty much every day now that this is my full-time work, I don't have an idea that someone's going to kill me when I leave my house. Like, that's not a realistic
stigma.
fear of mine. Like, I
Right.
know statistically the chances of someone shooting and killing me is very slim. Do I know that it's a possibility? Yes. And with that 0.00001%, that's just enough for me to be prepared. That's just my way of thinking. From growing up in New Haven, you don't want to get caught slipping. I don't know how to make it any simpler than that. If you get caught slipping at the red light, you might see the next white light.
Bars.
That's good.
Bars.
And, for me, it's like I like guns, right? But for me, it's not so much like me being a Second Amendment advocate. You get what I'm saying? I'm more of a self-defense advocate. Whatever that looks like for you, however that may look like for you. But just putting yourself in a position where you have an advantage, where someone were to, bring harm to you. And again, whatever that may look like. If it's you taking kickboxing classes, you into karate, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, MMA or whatever it may look like. If you like knives, by all means, do your things. Do your thing. But that gun, realistically, is nothing unless you really know how to use it. You get what I'm saying?
Adequately.
But and at the end of the day, it all comes down to situational awareness anyway.
It's facts.
Knowing where to go, how to move. If you're on point with that, you'll probably never be in a position where you even have to utilize that gun outside of a training purpose. But again, just coming together as a community to have fun with it.
No. So if there was one myth that you had to dispel about guns, what would be the main myth you feel like you needed to dispel?
That the AR-15 is not a full automatic machine gun.
He walked,
he
walked right into it.
Yeah, it's just not.
So let's have that conversation, and we're gonna have like a quick 5-10 minute conversation on the AR-15. Well, talk to me about that.
So ask me a question, like, because you are a novice, right? And you don't know. You see its capabilities, but you don't fully understand its intricate parts. So have that conversation or this discourse with Joe and I, and from an ignorant lens, and let's just have that conversation, right? This is not a set up conversation. We didn't, probe you to ask any. Yeah, for educational purposes, we didn't tell Rick, like, there's no script in front of us. This is just coming off the top of the mind, right? So I build them. And I literally have full automatic machine guns. The ones that I build for the civilian market are neutered in the sense that it does not have the same functionality. And it's not as easy as people may think it is to convert a typical AR-15 to a full automatic machine gun. And there's an abundance amount of paperwork and steps that you have to go through and approve. I'm not saying that some mechanical genius or someone mechanically inclined can't make it happen, that someone mechanically inclined was the one that designed it. So yes, it can happen, but the guns that I sell to people in Georgia, Florida, Maryland, Connecticut, Illinois, or whatever other state, they do not have what we believe that the military have. It just doesn't have that capability.
So what's the point of owning it?
It allows you to be more proficient with less skill.
So what's the point of owning? I think that's the idea that a lot of people are uncomfortable.
What's the point of owning any gun?
That's always been my question. Right.
Like,
and
if we could live in a society where snap our fingers today, guns are legal all across the board. Every law-abiding citizen turns in their firearms. Right.
Right.
How do you foresee us living moving forward.
A lot of hand-to-hand combats.
Really?
Don't think that it's happened.
You
I think
don't
that's
think
A couple knives. I think everybody's going to look for advantage at any
you don't
point in
think
time.
guns are going to be there?
Guns are always going to be there. This is no. Here's my idea on any kind of gun regulations right now. We could put the most strict gun regulations on right now. There's still going to be gun issues.
This is
right?
America.
Point blank. This is America, right? And the idea that comes behind that is this, like, I think I was watching the news one day, and it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and there was a guy in Ohio who died in his house. Inside this man's house, he had 10,000 guns and over 1 million rounds of ammunition. And he was this old man, didn't bother anybody, whatever the case would be, yada, yada, yada. But he had enough guns and ammo to start a small militia. And it's not to the space to say that it was undetected, but this is what he owned. And I thought, like, hey, let's just say the authorities didn't get there to be able to find out what was in this man's house and someone else got in there. These are guns that are on the streets that will be there. So there's no way to stop these things from happening, right? And we think about mass shootings and all this other stuff. And we think of ARs and yada, yada, yada. We got video games thinking that's like putting things way out of proportion and all this other stuff. And it's just like, I personally feel like no matter what we do, we can't stop it. And that's kind of where I stand. We can't stop it, but I don't think putting more rules and regulations in is going to make it stop either. So I always fall on the middle of that argument and say, okay, what is this going to do? How is it going to actually help the cause that we're looking for? Do I believe that a 21-year-old should be able to go into a store and buy an AR? No.
Absolutely.
No, I don't believe in that. I don't think so.
Why not?
For what? It's just like, what
your
do we
government gives it to him at 18. Why not give it at 21?
Wholeheartedly. I also feel like the government is the only people that should have those.
Be the optimal
Why?
age
Why
for
would
someone to be able to purchase a firearm?
Yeah, go ahead. Answer Joe first and then
Well,
answer me next.
So 21st birthday, I just feel like at the end of the day, it's just like, it's not. No, he
hear the chair
can.
squeaking?
Look, because he could even get to the point of we're saying 20. I gave 21 as a moniker. Really is 18 in most places, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at 18 years old, I'm not giving. If the kid can't go in and buy a beer, why should we be able to give that kid the same access to buy a machine gun?
You're saying 21 is a acceptable age to be able
I'm
to
not saying
purchase
21 is acceptable age. You're moving the goalposts. What I said.
You said 21 wasn't.
No,
but
what I'm saying is drinking.
Antagonist.
I'm saying drinking and being legal, which is 18, and some
where's
whatever.
Drinking legal at 18.
No, I'm saying if most of the country, outside of the predominantly blue states, have regulations that if you're 18 years old, you can go in on your 18th birthday and buy an AR if you want.
And
with
when was
very
the
few restrictions.
at what age did you have your first drink?
You know I didn't drink until so it was just worse.
Mine was like 14. Like
I know for us, but I was I was weird in high school. I didn't really want to drink and like have any type of like drugs or anything like that in high school.
My first hangover was in high school.
Jesus Christ.
So
I was in like this
is bad decision making, right? Yeah. So and I don't want to derail our podcast, but I do want to say like that, have a conversation, and this is where I vastly kind of like have contrasting ideas from what they have, because they feel like, yeah, go ahead. And I'm just like, I don't know.
Let me chime in. The cool thing about this, and we have to definitely do this again and again and again, because I like the discourse. The difference between this group and other people that you see on YouTube and other social media platforms is that they don't look like us, right?
For sure.
We have something that's unique that they don't have. In the United States, our ancestors were oppressed, right? And the greatest equalizer that's known to man, until you give me a ray gun, until you give me something that has infinite amount of ability to cut somebody in half with a laser, the firearm is what keeps my oppressor from putting their knee on my neck. No pun intended. Their knee on my neck. No pun intended. But you can take the reference however you want to take it.
Clean that shit up.
That's
I believe what Andre is trying to say.
Clean that up.
And this part don't even have to make it, but I'm gonna say it.
No.
Trying to say is me having a firearm gives me the ability to protect myself. It makes the situation fair. If someone's trying to commit harm to me, breaks into my house in the middle of the night trying to commit harm to me and my family, I at least have something to defend myself with. Because the truth of the matter is,
cool, but we're
calling
talking
911
about
isn't going to make the situation any better. And,
reactionary versus preventative.
Police aren't going to be able to get there
Right.
in time if it's that type of situation.
Absolutely.
So again, having something.
So then you talk about the oversensibilization of
Sexualization?
sensibilization. Yes.
He
Sensational.
definitely said sexualization.
I ain't say, y'all get your minds out.
Sensationalism.
Sensationalism,
Yes.
right? And sensationalization, right?
What happens?
So, shout out to Talk Opulence, man. But anyway, and I think it just we have so many like overstimulation. How about that? For when it comes to guns and it comes to the access of guns or the thought of guns, you have movies, you have video games, you have all these things that kind of in the eye or the untrained eye of what these guns mean is how people are getting introduced to them. So how do you kind of debunk those myths of just like, okay, yeah, I have the MPP-7 that's doing whatever.
See how
that,
you
but
do
it's
that?
on Call of Duty, right? So and then that's what we're looking at. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I used it during the Call of Duty Cold War. So this is the one that I'm thinking that I got. This is what I think is out there.
That's another one that I do on students. But so I'm gonna go back to that afterwards. The other AR, right? So
right.
if I'm gonna call it like I call it. Me and Joe say you trash, right? You can't shoot,
absolutely,
you trash.
Yeah.
If I put the AR in your hand at that same distance, you become great. You become good. You become decent. You so trash.
But you don't see the irony and the problem in that alone?
For you to so my niece is your daughter, right?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Okay.
I just need you to be able to the ability to protect her if I'm not there to be the one to protect her.
Facts.
I don't care that it makes it easier for anybody else. It makes it easier for you. That's all I care about. As long as it makes it easier for my team, I don't care what the opponent. My team just needs to win, and that's my realistic. What's the other one? What's the other point you made? Oh, the video game. Yeah, a lot of people would do that. That's when I can't watch movies without correcting it. I'm like, that's not real. Me and Free did a we're debunking Four Brothers and the other one, the Infinite Ammo. I had one student who's trash. Don't remember the name, but he said that he thought because of video games that all he had to do is point the gun at what he wanted to hit, and it was gonna hit exactly what he wanted to hit. And I mean, he hit everything but the paper. And he was like, "Yo, but I saw the target. Yeah, but the gun is not technically being pointed correctly, and therefore the result that you're getting is subpar.
What result?
Subpar results. No results. Not positive results. There's always gonna be a result, right? And then the other one is that we're giving life to an object that
is lifeless.
Right. Like this microphone stand is gonna be here when the studio shuts down, and so does the gun. Like there's enough of them in my safe, and every time I go back into the safe,
but then the argument then becomes, what's the point?
What's the point of what?
Of having it. If we know that it's lifeless, we know that all these things are happening. So what's the point?
Joe already answered that.
What's the point of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment?
We could talk about the first, right? Because nobody ever criticized and said we need to get rid of the First Amendment.
What's the First Amendment?
The freedom of speech.
Oh, okay.
So what we're doing right now is our ability is expressing our First Amendment right.
Correct. And then the Second Amendment is to
right. And notice the second one. Notice
don't worry about it, sweetheart.
Notice they said the first one is your ability to say what you want to say,
and
right? And it's immediately after
defend what you say,
which is the ability to defend what you say.
Because when you get punched in the mouth,
for talking reckless, you gonna need something better than them hands to try. So and I think
my life
I had to fight, right? So and I think that's And like we said earlier in the show, we all are going to have contrasting ideas as it pertains to gun. Like, and that's been me. I get both sides, and one of the main catalysts for me to be able to kind of go purchase is because my experience of what happened when I was in Bass Pro Shops. And no matter what my personal feelings may be, I'm going to get to the point of just like what I saw in Bass Pro Shops overrides all that, because there's other people who are out there preparing themselves and getting themselves why I should be doing the same thing. And I feel like for me and for anybody that I come into encounter with, I'm gonna agree with them 100% with a lot of the stuff that they're getting at, and then I'm gonna say, but there's other people that's outside that's different than you, and you need to be able to kind of get yourself either de-escalate the situation so it won't get there, but if it does get there, be able to defend yourself appropriately. And I think that it's overly important to do so. And that's one of the main reasons that I want people to join Brass, right? Come down, come talk with us. We'll talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. And we'll educate you on laws in Connecticut, laws across the state. Andre does the Utah license. Joe knows pretty much every law that's known to man. And he's just like a aficionado when it comes to making sure that you're prepared and defending yourself and just knowing the things that you need to know. And we're also trying to do a very large event this year. We're trying to put together a shooting competition for people of all levels. And we want to make it an annual event that people could come out to, participate in, measure yourself, and just see where you are as it pertains to just shooting, understanding your firearm, and moving forward into that. And let's talk a little bit about that, because that's your brainchild, and that's something that you really want to kind of put forward this year.
So what I really wanted to do is have a bunch of and there's other instructors that I have been speaking to in the background that will also volunteer their time to make sure that everyone is safe. I just put it out there. Safety is number one priority.
Paramount.
So whatever we do, whether you're competing or not, just come out to have a good time. It's not to say that if you're new to shooting, it's still for you. If you've an instructor, it's still for you. If you've been shooting for 30 plus years, it's still for you. It's really a group of people who enjoy being around firearms. We're still trying to work out some logistical stuff. I want to bring out some full auto machine guns, but with that comes insurance and other responsible things. So we're still working with finding the location, securing it, and figuring out the logistics. But it's really for all people to come out, have a good time, and enjoy themselves. There will be food, prizes, raffles, that kind of stuff. I think I covered everything.
What are your thoughts about the shooting competition?
Oh, I think any opportunity.
You're gonna win. Actually, goddamn it, I'm gonna win. That's what I think.
Any opportunity to shoot.
Bobby Miles wearing Nikes. Yeah. So no, and I thought when Dre pitched the idea to me, the first thing I thought was like, this is actually something to build a culture around. And I believe that once we put the branding behind it, put the club around it, this is something that we can truly use from a state and a regional aspect to draw people in, educate folk, and then have them say, okay, this is something that I can look forward to every year. And that's one of the main things that I say. People like things from a historical standpoint that they could get behind, and something that they could say, all right, I'm going to do this next year. This is going to get bigger and better. And then before you know it, we're looking at the 25th anniversary of the Brass Reeves shooting competition, and I think that's dope, right? So for me, that's always going to be it. And from a wrap-up standpoint, I think, I'm trying to figure out what do we say to people to just make sure, like, if there's something that you heard or any type of questions that you want to be able to kind of ask any one of us from anything, you could contact us on Instagram. Look at us. Our Instagram would be Brass Reeves NHV at gmail.com. You can reach out to any one of us, ask us about membership, access, what does the membership perks come with, and access or anything like that, and we'll be able to answer your questions and let us know, and we'll do anything that we can do to help you. All right, awesome. And I guess we could call these Sunday Conversations in Brass, so or something like that, or Conversations with Brass, something like that. We gotta figure out a way to brand it.
We'll figure out. We'll figure out a slogan.
Some slogans.
All right, well, holla at us, and until then, stay safe, stay educated, and most importantly, defend yourself. Peace.